Dharma to Abandon the Ill Will by Venerable Rungruan Papasaro, Dr. Rungruan Lim Chu Patapa. The lower fetter of ill will is a kind of unwholesome thought with desire for extermination. It is originated when receiving an unpleasant stimulus from the world through the six sense bases, and then the mind feels unhappy with pain. And dependently on this painful feeling, then the craving for extermination arises. After then the mind mistakenly assumes a self for desire and lust for extermination. That is, a self with desire to expel the pain immediately, and it is the lust for extermination, the pain by force. Then the mind attaches to the assumption of a self struggling to the five aggregates subject to clinging with ignorance. Starting with an initial thought of irritation, then being formulated to be an ill will along the course of thought. And after processing in several rounds of the process of dependent origination, the mind is fully formulated and contaminated into a middle defilement of ill will within the mind processing, and eventually it will be complicated the mind as a hatred on something in rough defilement. In life, we may encounter with so many things happened, and definitely there are some painful ones. If we do not know who causes it to happen, then we may blame it to something supernatural because nothing can be done, and mostly there is no ill will and hatred because no one dares to bother with them. However, if we know who does it, we have a tendency to take a revenge. And every time when we have an ill will, then we will be reminded of the painful incident or story of the past, and then the mind will struggle with unwholesome thoughts. The mind will fall deeper into suffering because those bad experiences. As a consequence, we are hurting ourselves time and time again. This is a serious suffering in life, especially when action is tokened with hatred, then starting a chain of karma of hatred. In this circumstance, the Buddha suggested to apply a proper dharma to handle the ill will as follows. When encountering with something bad or irritating, it is very common that we will try to identify the one who causes it, and wanting to take revenge on the person. The ill will aggravate the problem to be more serious, turning to be hatred, and eventually leading up to take an avenging to the particular person. This hurting each other feeling is a never-ending problem. Therefore, the ill will is not the right way to resolve the conflicting problem, but compromising, and forgiveness are the right ways to end the problem. Therefore, if starting to have an ill will, then we should try to abandon it before it will be increasingly aggravated into a serious problem. In the circumstance when having an ill will, the Buddha suggested to be kind to others, and if possible, we should forgive of whatsoever a person had done in the past. This may sound strange because most people want to punish or to revenge to the person for what bad thing he has done in the past. However, in Buddhism under the law of karma, whatsoever the person has done, he will get it back by the nature. There is no need for anyone to take a revenge for oneself. But by having an ill will within a mind processing, it will jerk the mind from becoming internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. Therefore, we have to abandon the unwholesome ill will, and do not let the ill will to bother the practice. In Buddhism, the greatest charity of all kinds is the forgiveness. The Buddha suggested that when feeling any ill will to a person, then having a mindfulness with careful attention on either of the following five dharma to abandon the arising ill will as follows.
Having a loving kindness to that person, so-called performing a loving kindness meditation. Having a compassion to that person, so-called performing a compassion meditation. Having a neutrality to that person, so-called performing a neutrality meditation. Understanding that person does it without mindfulness. Ignoring of what the person had done to us in the past, and let the law of karma to take care of it. It is not our business to judge or to be involved with that person.
In addition, having some dharma from the selected collection of 10 perceptions as follows. A perception on impermanency. A perception on no self or impersonality. A perception on abandonment. A perception on detachment. A perception on cessation. As mentioned in the Arkatpatayanya, the most effective way to headlayer the ill will and hatred is to let it go with the law of karma, and by doing so, we will take away from any involvement with the person, because for the bad thing that the person done, the person will get the result of it anyway. In the meantimes, if we keep on doing good thing, then by the law of cause and effect, some other good thing will pay back to us anyway. This is a way of life. It should be reminded that the compassion meditation is a derivative of the mindfulness meditation, that is, to have a mindfulness with careful attention on compassion, to hold the mind in concentration. So does the loving kindness meditation is to have a mindfulness with careful attention on loving kindness, and the neutrality meditation is to have a mindfulness with careful attention on neutrality, respectively. By having a skillful experience of mindfulness meditation, then we can apply to various kinds of wholesome states of mind in performing the Buddhist meditation.